Hi, Bio4, and welcome to part 7 of senses. And we're still talking about the ear. So when it comes to listening, there's different intensity of sound that's coming into your ear, and there's also different pitch of that sound. So those are measured either in decibels or in hertz. So the height of the wave, I'm saying, relates to the amplitude or the intensity, so how high this is. So this is, for example, waves that are coming in at increasing amplitude or increasing decibels, right? So it's getting louder, essentially, like this. So that's going to be measured in decibels, how much of that, what the amplitude of those are. So amplitude, when we think of amplitude, we're thinking of from the very top here to the bottom of the wave. Okay? Now, when you're talking about frequency of these waves or pitch, it's just one amplitude, but that amplitude, let me go back, sorry, that amplitude changes in frequency. So look at this one. This one's less frequent. Okay, and now I'm going to make it more frequent. So the frequency here is just increased. So the height of the wave pretty much stays the same, but the frequency just increased, and that is pitch or tone, and that's measured in hertz. Okay, decibels or hertz. Okay, we're going to move on to clinical conditions, and we're going to look at otitis media, conductive deafness, nerve deafness, which is also called sensorineural. So just a tiny bit about each one of these. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but otitis media is an ear infection. It's an infection of the middle ear. So when you have a cold, you have fluid everywhere, it's in your nose, it's in your middle ear, and that's nice and warm, and it's a perfect environment for bacteria or viruses. They're behind the eardrum to just kind of accumulate, and it causes ear pain, it causes fever, and in children it's really a drag. Remember that it's because the eustachian tube is very parallel, very flat in a kid, and later on when you become an adult you grow, and it allows much more drainage of that area, so it's not likely that that fluid is going to sit there for a long period of time. This can go away alone. Usually your immune system will take care of it, or sometimes with the use of antibiotics. But we are definitely trying to use ear antibiotics today. Okay, a second one here is conductive deafness. So this is difficulty hearing because that sound is not reaching the cochlea. It's not reaching the inner ear. And that could be for a bunch of reasons. It could be, again, fluid in the ear. You could have an infection that's chronic in there, and it's just not allowing those little bones to move and amplify the sound. You could have too much earwax. It could be just the aging effect of these little bones not working well, and you're just not hearing well enough. Hearing aids can help with this, because think of it as conductive. It means moving that sound from the outer ear into the inner ear. So if you could fix that, if you could amplify that sound with a hearing aid, which is just going to make it louder, it's going to be helpful. It's going to help the situation. Nerve deafness, then, is when you actually damage the auditory nerve. So in that case, it's you definitely hearing impaired, right? And it is really the cause of more than 90% of hearing loss in adults. And hearing aids sometimes help if you make the sound louder, and other times it does not. So other times, if that nerve is damaged to the point that it doesn't matter, that you can amplify it as much as you want, that you're still not going to be able to hear. So that is the damage of the actual nerve. It's not just a sort of middle ear infection that's not allowing you to hear. Okay, a little more serious than the conductive deafness. Okay, I want to show you something interesting, and this is the Epley maneuver for otolith slippage. So I've explained to you what the otoliths are, the little rocks that are in your ear, and they're both in the vestibule. And what happens if some of those little rocks slip and they move their position. And now when you move your head or accelerate, the signal that you're getting from the ear is different to what you're used to. And that causes confusion. And so this maneuver is a maneuver where they try and lie you down on your back, put your head one way and then flip it the other way sort of quickly in an effort to try and get those little otoliths back into the position that they slipped out of. Okay, sometimes it works and then sometimes it doesn't. And if it doesn't, you're just going to have to get used to that new location. This can cause terrible vertigo, and because of that confusion coming to the brain. The Epley maneuver then is trying to correct for when there is that shift in the otoliths. Why would it happen? Sometimes it just happens on its own. And it could be something to do with the fluid, that the gel that they're sitting on dries out a little bit, or anything that changes the consistency of that fluid could make those shift. Other times it could be, a tennis ball on the head. Something like that could also cause that. I want you to look at levels in decibels and hearing loss. Okay, if we whisper at each other, we're usually talking at about 30 decibels. And then when we're talking, we're at about 60. And then we're going to go increasing it here for you to see what could happen. A train whistle, about 90. A hand drill, 98. How long would you have to be in the presence of that sound before you get hearing loss or hearing damage? So the hand drill would be about half an hour only, and the train whistle about 2 hours of listening to that, and it would start to damage your ear. The greater the decibel, the shorter the period of time before you already get some hearing loss. So rock concerts, 110 decibels, 15 minutes. So if you stay for 15 minutes, 14 minutes at the concert, then you'll be all right. But nobody stays 15 minutes. They stay longer. So this is a real problem, you guys. I know I went to one really loud one when my daughter wanted to go see the Killers. And I went with her. I could not believe how loud that was. I mean, I felt my sternum vibrating. It's so amazing. And I had earplugs, though. I was protected. Okay, jet engine, 140 decibels. So you see the guys, when you look out the airplane and you've landed and the luggage is coming out. And those guys have sort of headphones on to try and, cut the sound. And sometimes they have them on and sometimes they have them around their neck, which doesn't help. Doesn't help the neck. And I wonder how many of those have hearing loss. At what point does it start to be painful? This is before the 140, right? At about 125, it actually is painful because those receptors are just firing so quickly. Any receptor, actually, any neuron that's overstimulated can cause pain, whether it's heat or cold or sound or light or all that. Okay, that prompted me to look at which is the loudest band. I had to look that up. And I've tried to update this and I can't find anyone who's louder. I guess they got into enough trouble. Kiss did, and they achieved a sound pressure level of 136 during a performance. And they were told they were shut down because the neighbors were complaining so much. So they were told to close up or turn the volume down. So I guess they turned the volume down a little bit. 136 decibels. Painful. I wanted to tell you also some loss of hearing. It's kind of like fun facts, but it's not really fun, so I'm calling them not so fun facts. In that 1/3 of the total power of a 75-piece orchestra, now we're talking about an orchestra, comes from the bass drum. So most of that noise comes from the drum. The high frequency sounds of 2,000 to 4,000 hertz are the most damaging. So in an orchestra, then the highest instrument is the piccolo. And the piccolo goes from about 2,000 to 4,000 hertz. So the piccolo can definitely be damaging. And I don't know if you've been to a concert or especially in an orchestra like this, where they have separations, like plexiglass separations, so that you don't get the trumpet in your ear or the piccolo in your ear, and try and protect the musicians. And we know that aging causes gradual hearing loss, mostly in the very high frequencies. So if you do those computer tests and you have this very high-pitched noise, usually the older you are, the less you hear those high-pitched noises. Interesting story is that they use those to disperse youth. And they do that in Santa Cruz too, downtown on Pacific. If they don't want a bunch of teenagers hanging out in front of one particular store and not buying anything but just kind of hanging out, they can put this little microphone with a high-pitched noise that's so irritating to someone who can hear it that they disperse and they move away. It's crazy, huh? And the older people will just be quite happy they don't hear it. It's not like they want to loiter outside the store, but they don't hear it. Hearing loss is a sort of disturbing thing, and speech reception is what you lose out on, right? You can't hear people, what they're saying. And so we know that speech reception is not seriously impaired until there's about 30 decibels of loss. And by that time, there might have been a lot of damage that's already happened. And the incidence of hearing loss in classical musicians, right, in an orchestra, has been estimated at anywhere from 4% to 43%. And look at this. In rock musicians, the low end is higher, 13%, but the high end is not higher, it's lower. So classical musicians have a harder time of it. I put some pictures in here because these are, ear protection. And these are the ones that work very well when they have the 3 tiers like this, not just the one that you get at Rite Aid, this little foamy one. They aren't as great. And then these here are made specially. So you can have these made. They take a mold of your ear and then they actually put them in so that you can have perfect protection. Usually musicians have these and they can still, hear the music, but they have protection of excess volumes. Hypertension and various psychological difficulties can be related to noise. If we're around high-pitched noise or just noise all the time, it's annoying. And I posted a really fun video for you guys, Julian Treasure, and it's about how we endure noise in different environments and how architects now have to think about that when they're building. Okay, we're going to stop right there. Thanks for listening.